Welcome back to Asterisk Unique Coin Value, where we dig into the stories and values buried in your change. Today, we're doing a deep dive on the 1980 Lincoln Memorial Cent. So, let's start with the fundamentals. The 1981 cent coin is part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial series, which replaced the wheat ears reverse in 1959. The obverse, or head side, features the beloved Victor David Brenner design of Abraham Lincoln, which has been on the penny since 1909. Below his shoulder, you'll find a mint mark. If it's from Philadelphia, there might be no mint mark. Denver will have a small d, and San Francisco will have a small s. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, shows the Lincoln Memorial. And here's a cool bicentennial-era pro tip. If you look closely at the memorial, you can see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside. It's a beautiful little detail. Now, the key thing to remember about 1976 is that it was the 200th birthday of the United States. While the penny didn't get a special design like the quarter, half-dollar, or dollar coin, it's still a tangible piece of that celebratory year. So, people often wonder if that historical connection adds value. Let me read that again. The Philadelphia Mint alone made over 4.6 billion pennies. The Denver Mint made over 4.2 billion. When you have billions of something, it's not rare. So, the vast majority of 1980 pennies you find are worth exactly their face value, even in decent circulated condition. But wait, don't click away. This is where it gets interesting. There are specific situations where your circulated 1976 penny can be worth a significant premium. You just have to know what to look for. Let's break it down into 3 categories. First up, the 1976 S penny. Notice the S mint mark. These were not made for general circulation. They were struck specifically for collectors in proof sets and uncirculated mint sets. So, if you find a 1976 S penny in your change, it likely escaped from A. Meant to be circulated, so finding one that is worn is less common. Even in circulated grades like fine or very fine, a 1976 S penny can be worth 25 to 50 cents. Not a fortune, but a 2,500% to 5,000% profit on your 1 cent investment. The golden rule of coin collecting. For a common coin like this, it has to be in spectacular condition to be worth more. We're talking about grades like MS, 65 red or higher. Red means the original copper luster is fully intact, with no toning or wear. A regular 1976 or 1976 D penny in a certified MS 65 red holder can be worth $5 to $10. But remember, this is for a coin that has never been in circulation. You won't find this in a parking lot. The king of them all is the 1976 D double die obverse. Look at the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." On the double die, the letters appear blurred or shadowed because the die was hub-doubled during the creation process. This is a recognized and sought-after variety. A circulated example, even well-worn, can be worth $50 to $150 depending on how much detail is left. In uncirculated condition, it can run into the hundreds, where the blank isn't struck properly in the collar. The value depends on the percentage off-center, but even a 5% off-center can be worth $10 to $20. The coin is struck outside of the retaining collar, making it a bit wider and flatter, where the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, slightly out of alignment. Separate your no mint mark Philadelphia, D Denver, and S San Francisco pennies. The S coins are your first candidates for a small premium. Examine for doubling. Asterisk get a good magnifying glass or use your phone's camera on macro mode. Look closely at "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Is it crisp and sharp, or does it look like it has a distinct shadow? Don't confuse this with machine doubling, which is flat and shelf-like and has no extra value. True double-die doubling is dramatic and clear. Look for obvious errors. Asterisk is T. We're talking about the 1981 Lincoln Memorial Cent. To the untrained eye, this is just a penny. It's been in circulation for over 40 years. You've probably handled hundreds of them. But what if I told you that a specific, rare version of this exact same coin can be worth over $7,000? It's true. But before you run to check every 1981 penny you have, you need to know the whole story. In this deep dive, we're going to cover everything: the history, the key varieties, the monumental errors, and exactly how to identify which of your 1981 pennies is a common spare change coin and which one is a numismatic superstar. So, grab your coin jars and your magnifying glass, and let's get started. To understand the 1981 penny, we have to go back in time. The early 1980s were a period of significant change for the United States Mint and for the composition of our coinage. Inflation was high, and the cost of metals was soaring. The classic 95% copper, 5% zinc penny, which had been around for decades, was becoming too expensive to produce. Its metal value was literally approaching its face value. The Mint was in a transitional period. In 1982, they would officially switch the 1-cent coin to a copper-plated zinc composition that we still use today. That's the one that feels lighter and makes a dull thud when dropped. But in 1981, they were preparing for this massive change. This means that in the same year, 1981, the Mint produced pennies in both the heavy, valuable copper alloy and the new, lighter zinc alloy. AS with most modern U.S. coins. 1981 pennies were minted at two facilities: Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, with a demint mark. For the common, circulated versions of these coins, the value is, frankly, not much. If you find one of the heavy 3.11-gram copper pennies in your change, its value is primarily in its metal content. As of now, the copper in it is worth about 2 to 3 cents. So, it's literally worth double its face value, but not a fortune. Pennies have no significant melt value. In circulated condition, they are worth exactly 1 cent. So, if you have a worn, circulated 1981 penny, it's likely not a big money coin, unless it's one of the key varieties we're about to discuss. For the serious collector, the most valuable regular issue 1981 penny wasn't even made for circulation. It was made for collectors at the San Francisco Mint and sold in sets. These are called proof coins. Proof coins are struck multiple times with specially polished dies on polished planchets, giving them an incredible mirror-like finish. They are the pinnacle of minting art. Now, the standard 1981 S-proof penny, which comes in the copper alloy, is a beautiful coin worth around $2 to $5 in its pristine state. This was a transitional error. A small number of the brilliant, mirror-finished proof dies were fed the wrong planchets, the new zinc blanks. The result is an ultra-rare, off-metal strike. A genuine 1981 S-zinc-proof penny is one of the great modern rarities. How rare? It's believed only about a dozen or so are known, and the value reflects that. In high grade, an authentic 1981 S-zinc-proof penny has sold at auction for. If you ever come across a 1981 S penny that feels light and looks like a proof, you need to get it authenticated immediately by a service like PCGS or NGC. Now, let's move back to the coins you're much more likely to find in circulation: the business strikes from Philadelphia and Denver. The real treasure hunters in the 1981 series are the famous double die obverse varieties. That a double die occurs when a master hub imprints the design onto a working die misaligned or out of alignment, creating a doubling effect on every coin struck by that faulty die. For 1981, there are two main ones you must know. This is the more prominent of the two. Look for clear doubling on the date, particularly the bottom of the one. You'll also see strong doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust." The letters appear. The 1984 Lincoln penny. We're going to explore its history, its key varieties, and finally answer the burning question: what is a circulated 1984 penny actually worth? Stick around, because the answer might surprise you. To understand the 1984 penny, we need to set the time machine for the early 1980s. Ronald Reagan is in the White House. Michael Jackson's Thriller is dominating the charts, and the U.S. Mint is producing pennies at an absolutely staggering rate. In 1981, over 16 billion pennies were made between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. That's billion with a B. By 1984, things had calmed down only slightly. The reason? Simple demand. The economy was humming, and commerce needed small change. So, the mints were churning these coins out like there was no tomorrow. The 1984 penny is part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial reverse design, which started in 1959. There's nothing particularly special about the design itself in 1984. It's the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln by Victor D. Brenner on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But within this massive production run, the mint's quality control, or occasional lack thereof, creates the opportunities for the error coins that collectors dream of. So, with a total of nearly 14 billion pennies produced, the 1984 penny is, by any definition, an extremely common coin. If you have a jar of change, I can almost guarantee you have several of these. Okay, so let's get to the big question. You pull a worn, circulated 1984, P or 1984, D penny from your change. What's it worth? Its value is its face value. It's a workhorse coin, not a rare numismatic treasure. Because there are literally billions of them still out there, the supply massively outstrips any collector demand for a standard, worn specimen. Now, if you have one that is in absolutely pristine, uncirculated condition, meaning it was saved straight from a mint roll and has its original luster, no bag marks, no scratches, then you might be can be worth $150 to $300 or more. The second variety is more subtle, but still valuable. The doubling is most pronounced on the word Liberty on the band on Lincoln's shoulder. It's fainter, so you need a good eye or a magnifier. In uncirculated condition, this one can still bring $75 to $150. Remember, these are for the Philadelphia Mint coins. The 1981 D also has some minor double die varieties, but they are much less dramatic and valuable, usually adding only a small premium. This is crucial for identifying the composition. You need a sensitive scale that measures in grams. A copper penny will weigh 3.11 grams. A zinc penny will weigh 2.5 grams. The copper ones are more desirable for both metal value and variety hunting. Get a 5x to 10x jeweler's loupe or use the macro lens on your phone. For 1981 P coins, carefully examine the date, In God We Trust, and Liberty for any signs of doubling. Compare it to a clear photo of the known DDO varieties online. Look for any other oddities, die cracks, off-center strikes, etc. Don't get discouraged if you check 100 coins and find nothing. That's normal. The hunt is part of the fun. So, what's the final verdict on the 1981 Lincoln cent? For the average circulated coin it's worth 1 to 3 cents, with the copper ones being a nice little piece of hard money. For the variety hunter the 1981 P double die obverse are the stars of the show, with values ranging from $75 to over $300 for nice examples. For the dreamer the 1981 S zinc proof is the ultimate prize, a $7,000 plus modern rarity. The 1981 penny perfectly encapsulates a moment of change in American numismatics. It's a coin that looks utterly ordinary, but has layers of hidden depth and potential value. It proves that you don't need to find a coin from the 1800s to find a treasure. The treasure could be sitting in your pocket right now. Now, you might be thinking, a 1960 penny? I see those all the time. And you're probably right. But within this single year of the penny lies a fascinating story, a major minting controversy, and a couple of varieties that can turn this common coin into a find worth hundreds of dollars. So, before you spend that next old penny, stick around. You'll never look at a 1960 cent the same way again. To understand the 1960 penny, we have to step back into the world of 1960. Eisenhower was president, but a young John F. Kennedy was campaigning to take his place. The world was on the brink of the space race and the counterculture revolution. And in everyone's pocket or purse was the Lincoln Memorial cent, which had only been introduced 2 years earlier in 1959, replacing the long-running wheat ears reverse. This new design, by Frank Asparo, was modern. It honored Lincoln with a grand monument built in his name. So, a 1960 penny is a genuine piece of that early 1960s Americana. All right, this is where it gets really interesting. For the 1960 penny, the U.S. Mint at Philadelphia created a new master die for the obverse, the Lincoln head side. They made a slight change to the date, creating what we now call the 1960 small date. But there was a problem. This small date dye didn't strike up as well on the new, harder, copper zinc planchets the Mint was using. They were having issues getting a full, sharp impression, especially on the reverse. So, the Mint went back to the drawing board, fast, then modified the die, making the date larger, bolder, and easier to strike properly. This created the 1960 large date. Now, here's the key takeaway. The small date was only produced for a very short time at the beginning of the year before they switched to the large date. This makes the small date varieties significantly more scarce, especially in higher grades. Pennies were minted in two places in 1960, Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, with a D mint mark. And both mints. Advanced hunters. The Mint also produced special proof coins for collectors in 1960, and these also come in both small and large date varieties. The small date proof is particularly valuable. Also, keep your eyes peeled for errors. There are known double die obverse varieties for 1960, where the date and lettering appear doubled. These are always worth a significant premium over a normal coin.so. The 1960 penny is a perfect example of why coin collecting is so cool. What seems like a single, common coin is actually a story of minting experiments, scarcity, and hidden treasure. The vast majority are worth exactly 1 cent, but a keen eye can spot the rare ones that are worth a small fortune. IT turns an everyday object into a piece of detective work. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1960 Lincoln cent. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever found a 1960 small date penny? Which variety do you have sitting in your collection? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more coin mysteries, history, and treasure hunts. Until next time, thanks for watching and keep checking your change.